In a kingdom filled with powerful horses, warriors, and hunters, the king once paid a fortune for a tiny bird. People couldn't understand it. The bird wasn't strong, wasn't dangerous, and couldn't do the work of even a single horse. So why was it treated like treasure? Among the crowd stood a poor stable boy who quietly asked himself the same question. Because deep inside, he had spent his whole life feeling ordinary. But years later, he would discover something that completely changed the course of his life. The world does not reward everyone equally, and the reason has nothing to do with strength alone. The stable boy's name was Elias. Every morning before sunrise, he cleaned horse dung while warriors trained nearby. People admired the warriors. Children followed them. Merchants greeted them respectfully. Even servants bowed when they passed. But Elias? Most people barely noticed him, and when they did, it was usually to insult him. Move faster, stable rat. Careful. Don't touch the royal saddles with dirty hands. Sometimes the soldiers mocked him openly. One warrior grabbed Elias by the shoulder and laughed to his friends. Look at him. Weak arms, quiet voice. This boy won't become anything. The men laughed, and Elias laughed too, pretending it didn't hurt. But that night, while washing buckets alone, he quietly stared at his reflection in dirty water and whispered, "Maybe they're right." A few weeks later, exotic traders arrived at the palace. Inside golden cages sat rare creatures from distant lands. But one tiny silver bird captured everyone's attention. Its feathers shimmered under sunlight. Its blue eyes moved intelligently across the crowd. Then, suddenly, the bird spoke, in the exact voice of the king. The crowd gasped. Moments later, it copied a crying baby, then a barking dog, then the sound of royal drums. People stood frozen in amazement. The king immediately offered a massive fortune for it. Elias couldn't believe it. That tiny bird was now worth more than 10 war horses combined. That night, he asked the old royal trainer, "How is this possible? The bird is small, weak, fragile. Why is it worth more than creatures far stronger than it?" The old trainer looked at him carefully. Then he replied, "Because strength is common." Elias frowned. The trainer continued, "But rarity creates value." Those 4 words echoed inside Elias's mind for days. Elias became obsessed with the idea. He thought, if I become stronger, maybe people will finally respect me. So every night after work, he secretly trained with heavy stones. His hands bled, his back burned, his body trembled from exhaustion. Weeks later, Elias challenged another stable worker to a wrestling match in front of everyone. He lost within seconds. The crowd burst into laughter. One soldier smirked. "A donkey wearing lion skin is still a donkey." The entire stable erupted again. That moment shattered Elias. Humiliated, he stopped training completely. For days, he avoided everyone. And each time he heard the birds singing nearby, it reminded him of his failure. One stormy night, Elias sat alone inside the stable while rain crashed outside. The old royal trainer quietly entered and sat beside him. After a long silence, the old man asked, "Why did losing hurt you so much?" Elias clenched his fists. "Because no matter what I do, I still feel ordinary." The trainer nodded slowly. Then he pointed toward the silver bird sleeping in its cage. "Do you know why kings pay fortunes for creatures like that?" Elias replied bitterly. "Because they're special." "No," the trainer said softly. "Because they developed something few others have." Then he looked directly into Elias's eyes. "Listen carefully. The world does not reward effort alone. It rewards value, and value grows when you become useful in ways others cannot easily replace." That sentence hit Elias deeply, because for the first time he realized something painful. He had spent his life trying to impress people, instead of improving himself. That night changed everything. Elias stopped chasing attention, and quietly began chasing growth. While others slept, he learned. He studied horse behavior from old trainers, learned healing herbs from traveling merchants, watched blacksmiths repair armor, observed traders negotiate prices. Months became years. People still mocked him sometimes, but Elias no longer reacted. Because while others chased applause, he was building skills. One winter, a deadly sickness spread through the royal stables. Horses collapsed daily. Royal soldiers panicked. The kingdom began losing thousands of gold coins. Experienced trainers failed to stop it. Fear spread everywhere. Then, one morning, Elias noticed something strange. The sick horses all drank from the same frozen water source. Remembering herbs he once studied from an old traveler, Elias created a treatment mixture. But when he warned the royal officials, they laughed. A stable boy thinks he's a healer now? Even the soldiers mocked him again. But this time, Elias stayed calm. Because unlike before, he no longer needed their approval. That night, while everyone slept, Elias secretly treated the weakest horses himself. By morning, those horses were standing again. Word spread rapidly through the kingdom. Within days, Elias's treatment saved dozens of royal horses. The same people who ignored him for years suddenly looked at him differently, not because he demanded respect, but because he had become difficult to replace. Soon Elias was invited into royal meetings. The king himself asked for his advice. The warriors who once mocked him now greeted him politely. But something unexpected happened. The attention no longer excited him, because he finally understood something important. People often ignore your value until your growth becomes impossible to overlook. One evening, Elias returned to the stable after a royal meeting. The silver bird sat quietly near the window. Elias gently smiled at it. Then the bird suddenly spoke in the exact voice Elias once used years ago. "Maybe they're right." Elias froze. It was the sentence he whispered to himself long ago while staring into dirty water. The bird had remembered it all these years. Tears slowly filled Elias's eyes. Because in that moment, he realized how far he had truly come. Years later, young workers often asked Elias, "How do we become valuable?" And Elias always gave the same answer. "Stop trying to look important. Start becoming useful." Then he would tell them, "Strong people exist everywhere. Talented people exist everywhere. But people who constantly learn, adapt, solve problems, and grow beyond the crowd become impossible to replace." Then he would point toward the old silver bird resting peacefully nearby. The bird was never valuable because it was powerful. It became valuable because it developed something rare. As years passed, the silver bird grew weak with age. Eventually, it stopped singing altogether. Many people stopped noticing it, but Elias cared for it every single day until its final breath, because the bird had given him the greatest lesson of his life. True value is not about being admired for a moment. True value is becoming someone whose presence genuinely matters. And long after the bird was gone, its empty cage remained near Elias's window. Not as decoration, but as a reminder. Ordinary people become extraordinary the moment they stop chasing attention and start building value within themselves. So before you call yourself worthless, ask yourself honestly, am I truly lacking value, or have I simply stopped growing? Until the next story, keep learning, keep evolving, and remember, the rarest people in the world are not born different. They become different through growth no one else is willing to endure.